This will be the prophet Hosea, part 1. In this one, I've got to tell you, I did a little bit to start off with this one here. I did a lot of work to begin with this one, trying to speed these videos up a little bit. But as you can see, I've done this already in 1995, and I'm updating my copyrights. And let's see here, as normal, it's not a word from a word of YV. It is a prophecy from YV. Okay. And it didn't, which came to, it isn't that, he is chosen. So it's through Hosea. And this time we do have that he's mentioned as a son, because we have 3 verse, 3 verse, 3 verse, 3 verse, 3 verse. As you can see, I've kind of found the format already. But there's a big problem when it comes to finding out what king is what king. Now, I want you to look at this name here and this name here. Okay, you got that? Because right off the bat, I want to show you if this is the king, one of the kings we've got here, and supposedly I'm thinking this is the other one. Let's check that again. See, it's Jotam. Now the thing here is we'll also notice this here name here. This, we need to go back over to here. And Jotam is down here. Okay, and so is the next guy. I got rid of the IAH on the text that I'd done for our Creator's our everlasting promises. So here they're talking, no, you can't see that. See, they've got him down here with a king up here. Now, this king is a son of this king, and then his other son came over here. And you got to understand that this guy here is the one who has his wife, his name is Jezreel. Okay? And then we have the king who is known as Judah. Now, he was a righteous king, and he was a son from Jehoshaphat. Now, he's the one that burned the bones on the altar and was killing all the those onto other gods at that time. I mean, he really went and killed a lot of them, because what this king did here, Jeroboam, set up an altar in Bethel. Okay, and he turned around and made it what would be like a capital city for Israel, the kingdom of Israel, but they weren't to go to make an offering in Jerusalem to our Creator for their sin. He was trying to set up a new God here, and this was prophesied that he would have his bones, or the priest's bones, would be burnt upon this altar. So there was a prophecy at this time about this guy to come along. So when we look at the text itself, down here, where is it? No, I didn't. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, this king does not exist, okay? Just doesn't. This king is not from Judah, okay? He's from Israel's king, okay? So we know that this king is not there. But it says in the days of Jeroboam, okay? And it can't be in Jeroboam's day. Well, excuse me. I try to catch that in time so you guys don't have to see all that. But the king here is really over here. And it's not this king. It's this king. Because of the length of time that he has to be living, okay? If the prophet is going to be alive, you can't have him live for, what is it? Let's see, from Jeroboam's time, which they're saying here, all the way down to this guy here. So just take a look at all these years that he'd have to be alive. So we know that this is just not truthful. But what the story does go to is talking about Israel, okay? And so here, especially about Jezreel, and this is the guy who is married to Jezreel, the king. So, and then Jehu killed him, and when you hear the story, you're going to find out this is the area. So what I'm saying is that somewhere around this time is where the story is going to take place. And I can only tell you about this right now because later it's going to be confusing, and I want to make sure that when I tell the story, I want you to know ahead of time these events that happened back then. So when I look here, this is the wrong name because that's hundreds of years later. This guy is but king from Judah, but it's just the wrong timeline. It's, you know, he was the one king before this guy. So actually, when I figured out everything, it was these two kings at this time that this is going to take place. And then it's not Jeroboam, okay? It is actually these two guys. So, because now your book might have a different king married to Jezreel. Trust me, just as confusing as this is, it took me years to figure out the correct kings in the order. Because there's other wars, other things that happen, other times and dates that actually exist in the text that needed correcting. And now it comes to a son from who? Well, I have Solomon here. And that's because when you do study the text and get the right information and sort it all out, you can see that I have here, oops, I gotta make it so you see. This blue line isn't here for nothing, okay? This guy was a son from David, okay? I didn't put that over here, but this, if you would have read the story, you would have known that he took off because he wanted to be a, I don't know, he wanted to be something. He wanted to be like a commander or something, and he wasn't awarded that position, so he took off to do his own thing. But when he come back, this had happened where our Creator had prophesied that Israel, the nation of Israel, is going to be divided into two kingdoms. Now, I know that you understand them as kingdoms, but they're actually nations. But the object is that it was divided, and when it was divided and they understood, they sought a son from David to keep the prophecy alive that Yah is coming, their Savior is coming. And you have to understand that they knew that the Savior was coming. That's going to be a very important part when the text starts, when we start going through it. But after his son had died, they needed another king that was from Solomon, okay? So here is why it comes from Solomon, and then he loses Manasseh, and then this guy, I think we're going to hear from at some time. I'm not sure if it's in this one or not, but the object here is here is where Samaria has been made as a capital city for Israel, and this king here made it a fortress. Okay, I think he started the fortress, but he started out by buying some land, and then years later that it was built up into a city, capital city for Israel. And I've explained why my Syria is different than everybody else's Syria, and I'll probably have to do that again. Okay, so this is why we have whoops, we don't need this anymore. So it is a son from, their sons from Solomon. Okay, so now we have actually the truth of what's going on here. I mean, you had to understand when you're reading the story. I had to read it over and over because it was just, these guys were just too far away from the situation. This guy here is actually down here on the Israel side. So, but the object here is after I got that cleaned up, YV spake to Hosea, or yeah, Hosea. I should have made that a capital H here. And then he's telling him to go take yourself a wife of harlotry, meaning a harlot, not a harlotry, but harlot. This is a whore, plain and simple. She's out getting money from men, even though I think it says, no, okay. She's a harlot, or she's a whore, and now he's gonna, our Creator's telling him to have a child or children through this harlot. And it says the land were committing harlotry. Well, the people were committing harlotry or whoredom, meaning that they were willing to go on and find these whores and have sex with them and even pay for them. And under our Creator's way of life for us is a pure male virgin marries a pure male or pure female virgin, and they're united and they share their love, and that's marriage. This is the way our Creator wants us to live our lives. And then everything else is adultery if they start going away. But the land started getting to where there was this harlotry going on. Okay, and I guess that's the only word I can use as many what was going on. And they were forsaking YV. Now you wouldn't have our Creator speaking in third person here. You would have him speaking as if first person, so the me has to be here. And they are forsaking him. You can't forsake our Creator, but you can be leaving him because they're doing this like they're getting away with it, so it doesn't matter. I don't see no reaction from our Creator. So he went to Gomer, or he took Gomer, this is his wife's name, and she was a daughter from this guy here, and she conceived and bore a son. And then our Creator said to him, name him Jezreel. Now this is important because there are now two Jezreels in the text. Jezreel, the one who, this king here, okay, well, let me finish this. I didn't need this part of the text to fill the 3-verse format. And I will punish the descendants, or the house, but they're actually descendants, and it was Jehu. Now, Jehu is the one that was, our Creator told Elijah, no, Elijah, not Jah, but Elijah, the one with the SH at the end, I think. He told his attendant to go pour oil over this man's head, who was a commander for this king here, who had married Jezreel. Okay, now he's the one that killed him. But before this, before he was dead, he came in one day and his wife asked him why he is so sad. And the story is, who is that guy's name? I think it was Nabal. He said, Nabal, no, that was David at that time. Anyways, this guy wouldn't sell him the property next to the fort so he could have like a garden. And he was saddened. So what she did was she wrote a letter to those around him to claim that he was against the king, and they took him out and stoned him to death. And so this is what's the punishment of Jezreel is talking about, that it was punishment of the descendants from this guy, Joram. Okay, Joram. Now, I'm pronouncing the names, and I'm terrible at them, so just hang in there. Don't key on that. Name him Jezreel. I will punish his descendants from Joram for the bloodshed by Jezreel. This was the bloodshed that I'm talking about, that she had him killed for no reason at all, just so he could have the property. Okay, and I'll put an end to his kingdom, meaning his descendants as kingdoms. Okay, now he did this by Jeroboam. After he killed the king, he went into the fort and he killed Jezreel, and then he went to another city nearby. Let me see if I've got a map here. If not, I will find it, because it's, the story is very important here. Is this it? Oh, that's the beginning of them buying the, this is the beginning of how they, where the king buys the hill, Omar buys the hill. Let me see, I need to get into other text here. I should have been prepared. I thought I had them already, but let's see, it's going to be in this drive, and I need all the images. Where's all? Maybe it's in here. Okay, in this one too? I got it buried. Okay, I think I've got it close there. Joseph to the promised land, and then to kings. Okay. Now I gotta find under the kings here. This is still David. That's still, there were so many things that David did that, okay. What's this one? I got them too small here. Oh, no. Okay, this, no, that was a war, that was later. Okay, here it is. And now you can see why I was confused by which one. Okay, now, the key here is that they were up, they were up battling this king, or Aram's king, for this city because they wanted to overtake Gad here. And he was anointed, and then when he comes back riding over here, and this is the only path that he can actually take to get through here, he ended up coming here and he killed the king in Samaria. Then he killed the queen. Then he went to the hometown or the city named Jezreel, and there he killed his sons, okay? Now, when he was, that's number 3, but number two has a king coming up from Israel to speak to him about helping over here, okay? So he went to go see one king, but when he came out, he told me, I just got done killing him, and watch how righteous I am because I'm killing off the evil, and I'm going to correct the land as king. And he comes over here and he kills his sons off, okay? And then they come back to Jezreel or to Samaria. So there's truth here that you need to understand when the text is saying, I will punish the descendants from Joram, okay, and for the bloodshed. And then it's about his kingdom is going to be put to an end. So this is all true, and I can point to that story as the time and place of what is happening, okay? Now, and it was here, it was not break the bow for Israelis or Israel's. It was the yoke that they had put on the Israel's, meaning the kingdom of Israel's people, because the kings had led them to be on to another god. This was the yoke that he's going to break up. And I will break the yoke for Israelis in the valley of Jezreel. Now, when it comes to the valley of Jezreel, here is the true valley. See this valley in through here and probably between the mountains or the hills. When you understand how the land is laid out with this river here and this river here and this river here, there is one road that is very ancient from the time of Noah that goes from above Israel all the way down to Egypt. And this is what's known as the highway, okay? The highway. And so when I was trying to figure out the highway, I literally walked out in the woods, and when I was like 5, 6 years old, my grandfather taught me how to read the signs so I couldn't get lost in the woods. And when you walk in the woods, you do go up and down a lot of hills. And I understood that if you're going to be a traveler, you want to take the shortest route, the one that doesn't take you up and down the hills. So when you look at my roads here, I have them going over and getting water here and then coming down here because they have to pass the river. And then when you see, actually you need to blow up the land to see how they went around. So this valley is really including this city here is what the text is talking about. So the text becomes very accurate in what's being said here, okay? Now, then she conceived and bore a daughter, and now the text itself, they've introduced our Creator's name here, okay? But I have to sit here and say, he said, because they're referring, they're more or less telling the story, okay? Again, this is, if you watch the last couple on these, this is what's happened, that the prophets give a description and then told the prophecy. So, but here, it's that see, I've got it as he said up here, and they're telling the story. Even though it could be almost sound like Okay, this is the prophecy. But when the text all of a sudden um, gets down a little bit farther, okay, I have the word I here. Okay, so maybe I've made an error here, and this should all be. I will have to look at that again. I'm sorry about that, but I've got it as them talking about what would happen here. Well, this daughter was named this name, and now you know why I shortened up a lot of the names, because I'm can do that. I'm editing the text. For no longer have compassion for the kings for Israel, that I should ever forgive them. And he's talking about forgiving them for setting up the idols or this other god. Well, this has to be removed because we need a 3-verse format, and this just doesn't fit in. So he says, I will no longer have compassion for the kings for Israel. Now, what he did do, and that is, he would ask them to the people to repent and come back, but they didn't. But he will have compassion on the kings for Judah. Okay, now this is true because you'll see that Judah is actually a good kingdom for a long time. And that just, I have to change all the text, not kingdom of Judah, but the nation of Judah and the nation of, yeah, boy. Didn't dawn on me until just today here. It didn't happen to have that little hammer hit me that hard. And anyways, and deliver them by their creator. So this is where I'm going to start editing the text in front of you. I will have compassion on the kings for Judah and deliver them as their creator. As their creator. They add that and don't need this. And our creator created the nation of Israel, so the word is correct. The title is correct. Okay. I will not deliver them by bow or sword, nor by battle horses or horsemen. Then it's after she weaned her daughter, she conceived and gave birth to a son. And YV said, name him this, which is not far off from this, but for they are not my people. Now, this means that we're definitely talking about Israel, okay, the kings of Israel. Now, what I want to bring back up here is, I got to go look for it. Because once I get this straight for you and show you these things, you'll have an understanding of what's going on here as the order is being corrected. Because we know that it has to take place that he's killing Joram's wife Jezreel in that valley and then his descendants, okay? But here is the kings that are going down that he's talking about that he was never going to look favorable again on. And then what it is Jehu's son was tried to do good, so he did this, but all of a sudden his son went away, and then his son went away, his son went away, and you can see that none of these kings here have a capital letter at the front of their names, so there's no story about them being good guys, okay, or returning to our creator. Such as this guy here, he was bad until he was good. Okay, and then he tried to do good, and his son who had witnessed fire coming down from heaven, he paid attention to that, and he too. But the younger son didn't. He probably was the youngest son here from Ahab. But the object here is it can't be just from down here. When we're talking the story, explaining the text here. So it's all about the Israelis, kings not doing good. They are not my people. Now, all this text here is added because even the word God is not in the text, Strong's dictionary or Strong's concordance. Strong would have mentioned or kept a word like that. He didn't keep all the ands and thes and like with or have. He stayed to the larger words that he knew that was important to make up the verse or what he was reading from the manuscripts. I'm not sure what manuscripts he was using, but maybe he was using the older Bible that was written in actually Hebrew and Greek when it was first written that way. And because, anyways, I'm getting off. I got to make sure that these videos stay short. Sometimes I get going and I like to tell you what I know. So they are not my people, yet the number of the descendants, this is going to be this, descendants from Israel. This is a capital I, meaning the man, okay, or the male. Don't want to use that secular word. Yet the number of the descendants from Israel will be like the sand of the sea, like the sand by the sea. Every little word needs to be truthful here, so which cannot be measured or numbered, okay? And it will come about in that place. It'd be that place. Where it is said to them, you are not my people. Now, this place becomes important later in the text, but I want you to understand, pay attention to this here, you are not my people. Because later down, it's going to talk about this place, okay? It will be said to them, you are the sons of a living God, meaning they're going to be debating about whether their God, they're another person's God, or another kingdom's God. The actual Hebrew word they're using here is El, which when you read the text, it is about comparing gods, like whatever your belief is as a god versus our creator who is a god, if you want to put it in a relationship as to the title God. So now we have to be said whether it was the sons from Judah or the sons from Israel, this argument's going to take place. It will be said to them, you are the descendants. Actually, I got to use the word descendants again. Descendants from a living God. And the sons from Judah and the sons from Israel. Well, we've decided to find that here. Now, is these two verses making sense, or is this verse making sense to be put up together? You are the descendants from a living God, and I will gather them together, okay? And they will be appointed themselves one leader, and they will go up from the land, and the day will be great of Jezreel. Now, this here can't be, okay? Of all the things that I know about what's going to happen, and what he's talking about is the Assyrians overtaking all of them, okay? Now, you can't say that they will appoint themselves one leader until this guy down here. See, there was no king for 5 years, and then this guy, he just somehow appears in the text, and he's ruling for 9 years over the last 3 tribes for the nation Israel. So this is where I'm believing this is what he's talking about in the prophecy. Okay, here. So it would be after they were gathered and sent. So this has got to be, it's not making any sense as much as this verse here would be making sense. There is so much going on in these verses that I have to sit here and talk and explain what 1 or 2 words mean or things like that, so you have the understanding of the timing. The timing is so important. It has to have structure. A lot of times when this text just goes off and just starts talking about nothing, and I take it and I just throw it out, it is because it's not like what we're seeing here, where one little verse has meaning of something that has happened because of a prophecy. Because like I told you, this is the prophecy, and then all these things happen later, so I know that it has to take place above King Jehu. Okay? After they're gathered together, I'm trying to figure out how this, say to them, you are the descendants from a living God. They will be gathered together in Assyria, because they went to Assyria here. And then on the land that's left, they appointed one leader. And then they will leave from that land as well, for it will be a great day. So when I showed you the relationship of where that king, like they were gone, and then the king was just to rule over 3 territories, we have to make sure that's here in the text. The son from a living God, it has to be Israel's. Israel, and that's the nation. That's the nation, so it has to be bold. Okay, and Israel will be gathered together for captivity. Okay, that has to be done. They have to be gone to show. Let me bring it back up. And so you've got an idea here. See here, this king here, and this is the prophecy we're talking about down here, is he's going to get rid of them. Now this could be actually the first prophecy that they're going to be leaving, okay? But that's why I didn't put in the word Assyria, because that wouldn't have been known. It would have been known down here. This is actually sounding like it's the first prophecy that they're gonna lose all this. They're gonna lose. Let's see, how come? Okay, they're gonna lose these tribes area, And then there's going to be no king, and then they're going to make him a king over this area, and then they're leaving again. See, the story is the prophecy of the text is so truthful here. It just needs a few things to be added to be correct. And they will appoint for themselves one leader. Okay? They'll appoint themselves, I guess, a leader. Not one leader. Have to have I would have to say the word then would have to be here. Then okay, now here I guess it could be one, because they're all separate for those 5 years, and then so I guess then they'll appoint for themselves one leader, and then they will go up. Then they will be taken from their land. Okay, their land. Okay, now we have that absolutely as the text or the stories that you can find are there. For that will be a great day. Okay. Now, realizing that this is all a prophecy and our Creator is telling them what's going to happen, and the text will prove that, or the text does prove that when you look for all the truths, because your Bible is so messed up with so many things. As you can see, how I'm restoring the text, and this would be very much like when you anyways, it takes knowledge to put these in together, and I'm just not sure anyone could actually do this. That's why I went over that very clearly, so you understand the text. And it would also prove that it wouldn't have come from the other kings at that time, because we needed the original story. Now we're coming to chapter 2. Let's see, 42 minutes here. And I don't know if I have the mowers. They're on the other side, so you might be able to hear them. But when they're on this side, I have to shut down really quickly. So that might happen here. Say to your brothers, whatever this is. Say to your sisters, whatever this is. Those just don't make no sense. But if you say to your brothers and sisters, contend with your mother, for she is not my wife. Now we have a 3 verse. Okay, now is this still prophecy? I don't know how to say this, because who are we saying, who's the brothers, and why are you contending with your mother, for she is not my wife? Okay, now they're going to be directly across the road. I'm going to stop this. I still got too much time. And I am not her husband, and let her put away her harlotry from her face, and her adultery between her breasts. Well, this doesn't make any sense, because are we talking about? Your mother, and who is the husband? Okay, now they're coming up on this side. Okay, I do need to stop on this, but we'll get into 2 as soon as they leave.